back, my dog. What's good, Sacir?
Kev, long time no see, no speak. Nice to see you. Where are you in California?
Yeah, I'm back in LA, back in the city, back in my city, feeling
You
good.
have a nice golden glow to you, I can tell.
Man, all year round, bro. This is the lightest I get.
Nice, bro. Nice.
So happy New Year. You know, it's World Cup year 2022. We got Qatar coming up, not in the summer. We got later on in the year. We have a fall World Cup, which we've never experienced, so that should be
Oh
interesting.
yeah, that's right. Yep.
We're huge USA soccer fans. 3 games this last window. We have 3 more to close out the qualifiers. And we played El Salvador, we played Canada, and we played Honduras. A lot, I feel like a lot's going on outside of the field, like always with the men's national team. A lot with the tactics, a lot with the coach, a lot with the fans. How do you feel about us? How do you feel, the process and, the morale of the team is at the moment?
Even if Berhalter went 9 out of 9, like got cruised through qualifying, right? With style, killed it. You're still going to have some people that say, oh, yeah, but it's qualifying. It's CONCACAF. Yeah, they're playing against this. You never win no matter what. So whether you do well and you beat teams 3-4-0, and you qualify for the World Cup, you're still going to have people that are saying, oh, it's not enough, or you're playing Guatemala. Yeah, let's see them do that versus France. Let's see them do that versus Spain. Let's see,
Yeah.
So we're very we're exposed to a lot of opinions, and sometimes I'm not even going to get into this, but sometimes we gotta be able to tone it down a little bit, and it's hard, man. It's like, I don't think there's any other country that has this kind of problem. Maybe Brazil, no matter what, like those, they're very opinionated, and they got all different types of people over there with different thoughts. But it's not easy for Gregg, man. It's not easy. Listen, I'm on Gregg's side. I'm a little bit biased because I don't think he deserved the job originally.
Yeah, fair.
But since he did get it, and he's a Jersey cat, and he went to Benedict's, which is down the street from me, I got to root for him, And listen, he's approaching, compared to Bob Bradley or Klinsmann, he's a little bit more of a modern coach. You know what I'm saying? He looks like, outside looking in, he looks like a player's coach,
Yeah.
with the Jordans and, being young, the basketball plays on the sideline. And it's like, he seems a little bit more of a newer coach, a newer style.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you need to do with these new players, with the younger generation. As long as he qualifies for World Cup, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
No one remembers the qualifying, bro. As long as you make it to the World Cup, that's where you're going to get judged.
Yeah.
So as long as he qualifies, he is number 1 to me.
Fair. That's a fair point about qualifiers. No one's.
All right. Sorry. Take away that Trinidad Tobago game. Can you remember any other game of last qualifiers?
No, I can't even name you 5 people that were on the roster.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. So it's like, the platform that Twitter provides, it's like you can get caught up in that. The soccer Twitter is crazy in this country.
Yeah, I am on the same page with you about Gregg Berhalter. I'm rooting for him too. He's an American guy. I believe that the the whole landscape of soccer right now, it's a good look to have an American coach, to have our own traditions and our own views be American. So I am rooting for him, but it's always very questionable, his in-game management, his tactics off the field.
Sure. I was actually at the US Canada game in Nashville where we tied 1-1. I was sitting with the friends and family of both US and Canada, and that game versus Canada in Nashville was so frustrating, Kevin, because all we did was just side to side, the easy passes. It was almost like a possession game with no purpose, And by the 30th minute, I had enough, and I just started going off. I'm like, Is this considered good? I was like, is Gregg going in the locker room at halftime saying, fantastic, guys, you did a good job of connecting passes? They had 0 shots by halftime,
Yeah.
you know, or like something like that. You know, it was, you know, that's not a good game. If you don't, the purpose of the game is to score goals, not to connect passes. You know, it's tough. You got to talk right after a game. I also think that's a big disadvantage, right? Like talking right after a game.
Yeah.
In any sport, you know, when the emotions are high, like I think it's always tough for especially coaches, you know, that with the adrenaline flowing and all that. For players, it's like you're expending your energy, you're running, you get to unwind. But coaches, we're always thinking at 1,000 miles an hour, and then you get asked questions that you have to hit on the head precisely, because if you don't, then your words get taken and spun into something else.
Yeah.
So that I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, man. I think overall it was a good window. You know, we won 2 out of the 3 games. El Salvador, you know, not that strong of an opponent. Honduras had checked out. But what definitely leaves a bad taste in my mouth is the loss to Canada, because they dominated us. You know, they had a game plan. They set back, let us have the ball, and you know they capitalized on the chances they had.
That's a good word that you used there. I like that, because even though they didn't connect passes, you said they dominated us, right? Yeah. Other people are saying, "Oh yeah, we had majority of the ball, we dominated." That doesn't mean you're dominating. You know, like you said perfectly. I agree, 100%.
You know, they set the tone. It's almost like they punked us. It was, the conditions were cold. Tim Weah wasn't available, but you know, but yeah, I feel like they're not scared of us. I saw an interview with Kyle Larin after the game, and he's like, yeah, we have this feeling that every time we play, we're not scared of them. We know we're going to beat them. And not that I find that, you know, disrespectful or anything, but it's like Canada, you know, like, you know, I feel like Canada's just now being a powerhouse. Like it, you know, a loss to Mexico definitely hurts, but you know, like losing after Canada this time, I was like, damn, like this feels worse than a loss to Mexico.
Yeah, Kev. Look, I said it before qualifying. Canada's on the uprise. Like they're good, man. Like they're a good team. A lot of their players are playing at big clubs, and it's, you know, like you can't be a bad national team with those kind of players, you know. So it's like we need to forget about the past. We have to live in the present and you know, predict the future, see the future. Canada is going to be a problem for the next couple of years or the next generation. Canada sat in. And Higuain said it actually this season. He said it with Miami. He goes, it's easier sitting in and countering than it is to break down a team, you know? So it's like organically, the game just happens to be that US needs to score or has to break down Canada, versus Canada, they're playing with nothing to lose. They lose to America, it's fine. You know, like it's supposed to happen. So it's like they can just sit in and hit them on the counter with fantastic players, you know? So I think their goalie was talking smack too. I think that's going to haunt them in the future, because when it comes to, you know, if it was a 1-game knockout, Kev, and it was USA versus Canada, I think we'd take care of them. I think we'll humble them. We'll put them in their place, you know? Because you only poke the belly, you know, of the beast by saying that kind of stuff.
I will say that at this moment, Canada deserves to be atop of the table. Not only do they deserve that, but they're the most fluid team all across. You know, they're better than Mexico as far as like they got their shit together. They're better than us. Yeah, they're also in their golden era, just like the US. You know, right now we're in the golden era. Players, they're in their golden era too. So they're coached very well. So they're definitely going to be a problem. And you know, but I had all bullshit to the side. They deserve to be number one. Not to sound too overconfident, just because, you know, we didn't qualify the last World Cup, but we have it in the bag. I feel like mathematically, you know, we should be able to qualify, you know, but I think our biggest mountain to climb is still to find that, you know, fluid formation, or like that consistent formation throughout the whole roster. Yeah, we have depth. We have guys that, you know, that are earning that, you know, are kind of like stamping their you know
Spot.
their spot. You know, Mckennie, I think, is our most important player right now. I think, you know, Christian obviously is our best player, but he's been in a slump. I think Mckennie definitely stepped up this window, winning. You know, he's good in the set pieces. Once he gets that confidence, you know, he starts freestyling in the midfield, and that's exciting to see. So we definitely want to see him in that pocket, you know, and definitely take on the responsibility as a leader, especially after being suspended from last camp. You know, I think it was definitely big time that he stepped up and that he's stepping up. I think he's a very important player, especially with Tyler Adams was, you know, he was
What do you
injured.
think? What are your thoughts, Kev, on Tyler Adams in the midfield?
Honestly, bro, I have my mixed feelings with Tyler Adams. I like him when he's not on the ball. When he's not on the ball,
Yeah.
he covers a lot of ground. He's disciplined. He's someone that's box to box, that has an engine that will disrupt. He's an annoying player, right? And he's solid. Don't get me wrong, he's solid. I'm sure his leadership is there, but on the ball, he worries me. Like, you know, I think his strongest attribute with the ball is him spraying it, but he like turns it over way too often, and he doesn't get forward as much as you know, not that we need him to get forward, but
Yeah,
like
exactly right.
he, you know, he's just like more like just an anchor to me. You know,
Yeah, I think that he's gonna be perfect for the World Cup in the midfield. I don't think he's a qualifying midfielder, you know, like
yeah,
and I say that because like in the World Cup, when we're playing against France or we're playing against, you know, any powerhouse, you know, we're the minnows,
yeah,
he's gonna be so big time, you know, winning balls, you know, covering ground, like you said. But when we're asked to break down teams, do you really need a six? Do you really need someone like him in the midfield, or do you need someone better on the ball? You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like if we have a team pinned in for a majority of the game, do you really need a six that's going to be a bruiser or like win balls? Or do you need a six that's going to actually spray balls in behind, you know, or try to connect that, you know, thread the needle or, you know, so I'm like, it's a tough one. It's a tough
Nah,
one because you obviously want him to play qualifiers, you know, and
that's bro. That's a very good point that you bring up about him, because I feel like if there's someone that's stamped their spot in the midfield, is him. You know, I feel like Adams, Mckennie, obviously, Yunus Musa's doing well, but as far as like defensive midfielder, he's the only one that like true defensive midfield that I feel that comes to mind. But what a point that you bring up is like, do we actually maybe need someone that just kind of holds the ball with the depth that we have? Because think about Gio Reyna's gonna come back. Gio Reyna's gonna, you know, either put. I don't think he'll sit on Mckennie, but he'll put out Musa. Musa will sit there. Why not? I would rather have Musa than sit in between Tyler in the six
Tyler,
rather than Tyler Adams, just
yeah,
because Musa's better on the ball and because he can advance the ball forward. And that's also what we saw Luca De La Torre do against Honduras. Yes, it's Honduras. Yes, he's a weaker opponent, but you know, opposed to Sebastian Lletget or Paulo Arreola, who only go side to side, this kid wasn't afraid to dribble up the field. You know, it was his like first real test with the national team, but he definitely showed out. You know, he's playing in Germany, and he's someone that, you know, has been asked by the fans, like, oh, where is this guy? Like, why is he not in the roster? And it clearly shows that he has that confidence to carry the ball forward. And speaking of Sebastian Lletget, I like the guy. He's a, you know, big LA Galaxy
yeah,
legend. He played, he gave us a lot, you know. But my question to you is like, I've been hearing this like rumor or just like, you know, Twitter, soccer Twitter talks, and like there's this big rumor going around that the MLS clubs and like I guess the MLS owners have a big influence on what players get called and put on the roster, and that, you know, they're in Gregg Berhalter's ear, and they need to have certain amount of players that you know playing MLS because
so
because of the contracts and the networks and all this stuff.
I mean, it makes sense. Like if you think of it like that, I feel like US soccer. I mean, I don't know if I should start getting into this or not, but like US soccer and MLS got to be in bed together. You know, like that's just natural, right? You almost
Yeah.
expect it. I mean, Gregg Berhalter's brother was he was one of the guys who were like hired him. You know, it's like he was top in the U.S. Soccer Federation. So that's nepotism right there in itself.
Yeah.
So just like in every business, it happens everywhere where it's one hand washes the other. And you think of it, there's two ways that they benefit US soccer and MLS. There's two ways this happens. The owners, you know, who own the players, right? Technically, or MLS owns the MLS players. They want to sell these guys, and you can't sell them unless they're playing for the national team. Right? So it's like, okay, there's that angle, right? It's like, all right, Gregg, you know, you gotta play a lot. You gotta play this guy. You know, we need to raise his value. You know, we're trying to sell him. And I could see that happen. And it does happen in Europe as well. Don't get me wrong. This is not just America. It happens. I've seen it firsthand. But also, you got to give some credibility to the league. Like, if you don't play any MLS guys, then, you know, what does it say for the league? You know, it's like, if you're playing in MLS, you can't make the national team. You suck.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like setting a precedent almost, you know, that like, okay, you can still play for the national team and play in MLS, you know? So I can see that, you know, happening. And does it? Probably. But I don't think to an extent where it's going to ever damage or like, you know, put us at a disadvantage in a game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he'll ever play someone that's not worthy of it, you know?
Yeah. No.
And actually, I want to touch up on one thing too, which I like. You notice that in these, like the El Salvador games and the Honduras and those games, he's playing the MLS guys. And it's like a lot of people got their hands up and they're all complaining, oh, it's not a good lineup. This is not a good team. But how are you ever going to test out your national team pool if you don't play them in those games? Like, you can't just all of a sudden like, oh, hey, you know, let me try out, you know, who's on the bubble? Bello, the left back from Atlanta. Oh, let me try out Bello versus Canada in a or Mexico in a, you know, crucial game. Like, you got to test these guys somewhere.
Yeah.
And then if they do well, then, you know, okay, maybe, you know, I'll bring them to the Canada game, you know, or he doesn't get to see these guys day in and day out.
Yeah.
So it's hard, Kev, you know, like, you only get so many chances to test these guys in these environments. So if someone can pass the test of playing in that team that he put out versus El Salvador, I think it was away, where Pepe scored, I think 2 goals late. What was that, right?
Honduras.
It was Honduras.
Yeah.
That team, I remember, right? It was like Sands, you know, in the midfield. It wasn't the best team. And everyone had their, you know, arms up and going nuts. And it's not a good team, this, that. I'm like, guys, relax.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. You know, like, he's testing out his pool. Do you agree or do you not? And then versus Canada and Mexico, he has his strongest teams. Don't get me wrong. Like, he'll play his strongest teams, all the Europeans.
I'm rooting for the MLS players. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I want, 100%.
You know, in the perfect, obviously, we want our league to be strong enough to compete, you know, with the players from the Europeans and the other bigger leagues. So I'm rooting for them. But as I keep watching these windows, bro, they're just like not up to like level. And I love Jazzy, but he's not.
Bro, he's the one. So he's the one player that does not deserve to be on the national team anymore. We got to move past him.
So,
Past
I agree with having him on the roster, maybe in the locker room, you know, for experience sake, because we're young, maybe throw him that bone. But no, bro, like, we don't have a center forward like a you know, consistent center forward, and definitely taking a chance on Jazzy Zardes right now is, you know, he's not at the level anymore. So maybe off the bench will be dope. So those are the small things that I question on him, and not.
So who would you play instead?
Obviously, you know, the hot guy right now is Pepe. He's in a slump. He's transitioning to Germany, and, you know, he's not really hot there yet, but he's the one that has the momentum, you know, especially because you didn't bring Daryl DK. You know, P Folk is doing pretty good at Young Boys. Sargent, who's at Northridge, he's
Yeah,
finally out of this,
those are questionable, man. Yeah,
but
I agree.
why not give and why not bring in one of those European guys? Not just because they're in Europe, but bro, Jazzy Zardes hasn't played in 2-3 months because the MLS is off season. A
Why
lot of these
did
guys,
yeah, so that could be a potential. Yeah, I see what you're saying with
you know
that.
what I'm saying, and not just Jazzy Zardes, but also Miles Robinson, who plays for Atlanta. He hasn't played in 2-3 months. So like these are like decisions that I'm thinking. I'm like, bro, like as a manager, as a coach, these are things you have to take, keep in mind that we still don't have a convincing center forward,
Yeah.
So it's that's what
But
that's
Kev, that's always the hardest position, right?
yeah,
It's always the hardest position to
yeah,
find, even if it's bringing a young player in and letting him kind of learn, and
yeah,
even if he's not doing like Pepe's perfect, because I think that Pepe's career might have been pushed too fast.
yeah.
Because I saw him play.
Yeah, last time I saw you, we saw him
Yeah. We
play.
saw him Red Bull versus NYC, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
we saw him live, and he's got a good frame, he's got a good body, but he seems still very, very
yeah,
green,
yeah,
and let's try to make him a little more ripe, and we'll deal with the growing pains. I'd rather do that than bring in an old forward who's probably not going to
yeah.
play.
I'll call up to Daryl DK. He's solid, bro.
Yeah, why
He's
didn't
also,
they call him up?
if you look at it, bro, these guys haven't been called in a minute. Like Daryl DK hasn't been called in a minute. Sargent hasn't been called in a minute. We keep calling Zardes, we keep calling Pepe, and Jesus Ferreira, who's not a center forward. He's more of a winger. He's more,
Mhm.
So
It's tough, Kev. It's a tough dynamic. Like, I was talking to one of my friends who's Moroccan, and he was telling me that because they're playing in the African Nations Cup, whatever the tournament is,
yeah,
and their best player, Ziyech from Chelsea, right? He's at Chelsea. The coach didn't call him in. He's not at the tournament. He's available, but they got beef. He didn't call him in. They started bumping heads, and they went on. Listen, at the end of the day, the national team doesn't put food on their table, on the
yeah,
players' table.
yeah,
So coaches national team coaches have it a little bit harder in that sense, where it's like the guys aren't obligated to do well. Like, you can still have a fantastic career and not play for the national team,
yeah, yeah.
So
That's a
this
very
guy,
good
like,
point.
for example, Sargent and the young boys guy, what's his name?
P-folk.
P-folk.
Yeah,
Yeah. So those two guys are still making millions, right? They're making millions. They don't need the national. They didn't ever need the national team to make millions. So why, like, it's not like do or die kind of thing,
yeah. That gives, not that I'm giving sympathy to Gregg Berhalter, but like, bro,
Mhm.
that's such.
It's tough, bro.
Yeah, it's
Being
a
a
tough.
national team coach is tough.
Yeah, you're never gonna be able to get the best out of these guys because you say, yeah, they're not obligated to be there.
No.
As much as it's an honor and to represent and blah blah blah, you can say like you're not obligated.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's the stuff they put out for the media. But
Yeah,
when your coach is telling you, for Chelsea's telling you, or whatever, young boys or whoever it is,
Mhm.
you got to stay. Your contract is depending on it. You need to do well here. That's where you give it your all. That's where you're going to start fighting, scratching, clawing. You're not going to do that for the national team. I mean, you do get a nice bonus, whatever it is, that the guys get, but it doesn't compare to what they make yearly at their clubs.
Let's talk Christian Pulisic, man. Do you think he was in a little bit of a slump this window? He was, in my opinion, it was, a good decision for Gregg to pull him out of the starting lineup against Honduras. The conditions, were not the best because obviously the conditions were fucking horrible. And, he's come out of injury and he's in a slump. So,
Yeah, I like it. I like it because number one is it kind of protects him in a sense, because I think that, I don't know if this is what Berhalter is kind of thinking, but it protects him because I think that he's being put way too much weight on his shoulders, and I think that he does well you know, like when he's a role player, that's when he can be the best. And at Chelsea, he doesn't have to decide a game, you know, like he can play well and he'll make an assist, but it's not like they come into the game and it's like, oh, all right, he's got to
Yeah.
score, he's got to assist, you know, like they have 10 other guys who can do it, you know. But with the national team, I think when he's make or break in a game, I think it's too much for him, you know, and God only gives that to certain people, bro. You know,
Yeah.
like that's Messi, that's Kobe Bryant, that's Tom Brady. You
Yeah.
know, those are those kind of guys. He's not that.
Yeah.
He's definitely not that. And it also protects him in the sense that, like, look, we can win without him as well. You know, and
Yeah.
it's not like you know he's doing it on purpose. Like, oh, you know, there's beef there. There's no beef there. It's just like, look, you guys need to realize that he's not superhuman,
Yeah.
you know, that we can still play well without him. And then the team sees that, the players see that. And then it's like, all right, you know, if he's injured or if he's not playing, we can still win, you know, like we can still try to break this team down. Where before it's like, all right, you know, he's got to win the game for us, you know, and
Yeah.
that's all we know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I
No,
like the move. I like the move.
I think it was a great move definitely to sit him out, you know. That's a very good point that you said, to kind of take that weight of
The
responsibility,
pressure off him.
pressure
Yeah.
off him to like, hey, it's not just your duty. The duty's not on you, you know.
Yes, you're right.
You know, when he came in, it was 2-0, and it was, you know, we had control of the game. The conditions were terrible. He's just coming off from injury. So I questioned that decision. I was like, that's terrible. Like, why would you put him in? Like, just, you know, put him on ice, give him this off. But yeah, I think when you put it
Good
that way,
way of reflect or redirecting the attention and the like, you know, and the main focus and like it's a good psychological move and it's a good I like him.
and
I'm all
and also like you know, or, you know, obviously we usually think worst case scenario, but best case scenario, what happens, you know, he comes in, his first touch, he scores. So you look like a genius now. Not only
yeah.
it was that a chess move, but now it's his confidence is back, all the criticism, everybody shuts up, you win everybody back. You get your best player back. It's important to point that move out, because myself, I was like, what is this guy doing? You know, but it's when you break it down and you kind of see how it plays out, it was definitely a genius fucking tactical move.
Yo, what were your thoughts on playing in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you next. It's crazy, bro. Like,
I don't know
obviously,
if you said anything pregame. Did you say anything pregame about that? Were you belly aching about that? Right?
everyone's so confused. Everyone doesn't get it. You know, we're
Think
used
about it. You bring those. It's like most of those Central American teams, when they play, you know, closer towards Central America, they have a good amount of fans.
Yeah.
You know, and the players can, you know, they adapt to the conditions of the field, the weather, you know. But bring them up north where they got to
Yeah.
freeze, you know, and it's like
Yeah.
they don't have that many fans, you know. It's like
Yeah.
that was actually a smart move.
Yeah, I you can look at it two ways, and I'm kind of I'm torn at it by it both, because I'm looking at it like in the bigger picture. As far as like a chess move for your opponent, I think is brilliant. Let's put him in the worst conditions, something they're not used to. Let's go to Minnesota's where there's no Honduran people there, so it's going to be a home game for us. So I initially thought, okay, the reason why we're doing that is smart, because that gives us, you know, the actual home field advantage, and we don't have to, you know, when we play Mexico, we play in LA, you know, we're the visiting team. That doesn't happen. But then I think about it, not prideful, but as far as like more of a like a logical thing, like, but that puts our players at risk. One, two, are we that down bad that we have to take Honduras, you know, to the worst, you know, is that where soccer is? So the media plays a lot into it. You know, you start seeing that you know, the goalie had hypothermia, all of this. But like, if you look at all these football games that we see on TV, we're used to it. You know,
but Kev, the art of war no matter who and what. It's almost respectful, you know, like
Yeah.
you're taking your opponent serious like that. I
Yeah.
see it as it don't matter. Even Bayern Munich, bro, when they play, you know, 4th division, 5th division teams in the Pokal,
Yeah.
they're beating them 17-0. You know, like they're going to try every competitive advantage that possible that they can get, no matter who. But yeah, you're right. Like, it's, do you really need to do that? Whereas, you know, that tells you where you're at, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, but what you said is true. It's like, you know, in the art of war, that's we're definitely taking no opponent lightly.
Yeah.
And also, like, yeah, like if you look at what Bolivia does, Bolivia plays in like the highest stadium. So I think in the soccer world, for us, is normal. I think the media and like this, you know, having it go viral, it definitely, you know, puts it in the conversation, and then people start making it a big deal. Like, why do this? Why do that?
He either was going to look like a genius or they were going to crucify him.
Exactly.
And so it turned out being the right play, because it makes sense. It's like, take your opponent and let's go fight, you know, somewhere where we're not going to like it, but we're going to be able to adapt to it. But they're not going to be able to even, you know, begin to where we're going to. You think any of those players on that national team have ever played in those kind of conditions before?
No.
You know, so it's
no.
like, but we've played in that, you know, like there's guys that we've played, bro, in the winter, it's freezing over here and we're still playing.
Because it's also like not the first time we've done something like this, you know. It just like so happened to be that it was snowing hella hard and the wind chill was terrible. But
and I mean, look, I like that the national team also goes to, you know, you got to spread the love here, you know, where it's like, if I'm a fan, national team fan from Minnesota, you never come over here by us. It's like, it's kind of, it's not fair, you know. And it's like, it's a good way to spread the soccer, you know, the national team, the US fever, because kids that are going to watch the game in Minnesota that are just growing up, and, you know, they go to that game, they watch that game, you know, they have fun, and then boom, they're soccer fans, you know. So it's like, maybe if US never goes there, they never watch a game and they don't become soccer fans. So it's a good way of spreading the US fever around the country.
100. Yeah. And if you look at the stands, even in a pandemic, that shit was packed. So it shows you where the passion, where the fans, like, we're gonna sell this shit out no matter where we're at. I think the media blew it out of proportion. I think fans are just not used. I think, you know, just picking at a small thing. I don't think it's
that's what US fans, that's what I'm saying. We need to tone it down. We got to be a little bit more I don't think our fans are football savvy.
Yeah, we're getting there though. And you know,
we're getting there for sure. We're getting there. 100% agree. But there's a lot of, like, bro, social media is so big now. You know, the way you can influence a mass crowd, Kev, you know, I don't know if you've seen Social Dilemma on Netflix. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
See how easy it is to manipulate like a large mass of people?
Yeah.
You know, so it's like anyone that's smart enough, or, you know, I'm not saying that there's someone out there kind of, you know, dictating, you know, what the general thought of, you know, our fans are, but it's so easy to, there's a snowball effect where it's one guy says this, then, you know, and then it just becomes a whole thing, and then the whole nation's talking about it, you know. And it's like, if you have nothing to talk about, then you're starting to talk about nonsense, and that's where some people can see through it and some people can't. And that's what I mean by being savvy. Like, we need to see through some bullshit.
And I think that's where we're becoming better, bro. I think we're growing as a nation, as a soccer nation, because if you think about it, obviously we're used to hearing Taylor 12-man, Alexi Lalas, Hercules Gomez, but now these guys are being held accountable by normal people, just like a random person of the fan base. You know, they're able to interact with these people and go back and forth. And now, as you know, social media is getting bigger and more soccer content is putting out. The Lexi Lawlesses, the Taylor 12-man, Eric Wijnaldum's, they're actually reaching back and communicating, exchanging, you know, dialogues with fans, and that actually helps us cover and keep each other accountable on what we say. instead of just talking out the ass, instead of saying this, like, what do you know about that? Instead of just, going back and forth, like having, being able to hold these people accountable via social media, via YouTube, via like whatever it is, it's only going to raise, the respect of the game, but also like the patience of the fans, because that's something that we don't have. We want everything. We want to win. And when we don't win, it's like all hell breaks loose and we forget about the process we've made.
The good checks and balances, though. You need it because without, the fans and the media and all that, then there, no one holds them accountable. So
exactly.
You need it, but I think we need to see through some bullshit. I think that, we don't need to get worked up about small things,
Exactly. At the end of the day, with 3 games left, bro, we sit perfectly. We're in second place. We beat everyone. No one's really beating us like down bad.
It don't matter. You can get smacked. They can get smacked tomorrow 6-0. As long as they qualify, Kev, it don't matter, bro.
Yeah. Because so
no one remembers that.
Yeah, 4 years ago, 4 years ago, we were in a much, with a bigger mountain to climb in front of us. I don't think that, we should dive into.
We were actually sitting in a better position before the Trinidad game. There was it was almost impossible not to make the World Cup last cycle. And it just happened. Here we go. Kev, who won the MLS Cup this year? NYCFC.
Yeah.
Who was the best team in the MLS season? Who was the fact that you don't even know? You know what I'm saying? Like, no one cares. No one cares. I'll tell you right now where Seattle ended up. Seattle ended up in the West Coast 12th, bro.
Sounders?
Oh no, sorry, that's 220. Oh, bro. Whoa. Sounders ended up, that makes sense. Seattle ended up second in the West Coast, but still, they weren't the best team. There's Colorado ahead of them.
Oh yeah.
New England was the best team in the league with 73 points.
No one's gonna remember that because they didn't win it.
They didn't win it, bro.
Yeah.
So it's like they can get smacked tomorrow, US, as long as they make the World Cup, it don't matter. And this is another point I want to make as well. I think the World Cup has got to be the World Cup and NFL playoffs. I think those are the hardest, tournaments to ever win, bro. I think I did touch upon it last podcast, but it's like, look, if US makes the World Cup, right, and they underperform or underachieve, but you like where they're going, right, and you like the way they played, and they showed signs of promise, and I think that only soccer brains will see when they've played well and when they've achieved a good level but lost. Like, I think you need to know the game to see that, right? It's like, Kev, you can see when a team plays well, they lost, but you can they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah,
bro, the World Cup is 3 games in the group stage, and then it's like 1 knockout game, right? So every minute of every game is so impactful. You can have 10 minutes. Look at France in the Euros. They have the best players in the world. They have 10 minutes that were garbage and they lose to Switzerland. You know what I'm saying? So like, if we in soccer versus NBA, where you have 7 games and you find out who the true winner is, right? It's like you play 7 games, you're going to find out who the real stronger team is. But with soccer, it's like you can be the stronger team, have a 10-minute period where you're shit, concede, and then the other team sits in and you lose 1-0, and then you're packing home,
Yeah.
So it's like, it's tough, bro. It's tough. It's such a tough sport to win, and I think that's unfair to New England because they had a fantastic season, week in and week out. They, dominated teams. They won games. And at the end of the day, no one remembers them. No one thinks about them. Like, they have a shitty game, 1 game versus NYCFC in the playoffs. They lose in penalties, and all of that goes out the window. So it's tough. It's tough. So that's why I really don't care about qualifying. As long as they make it into World Cup, I'll judge them more there than in qualifying.
Yeah. Us who know soccer, who follow, this is not our first qualifier window. we know that, no one remembers the qualifiers. We just got to get there. But I feel like there's just a lot of pressure because of us not qualifying last time.
Yeah.
People,
Yeah.
people who are just
You're right.
becoming fans of the sport are, that this is all they know, us not qualifying. So I feel like that's why the media, the YouTube soccer culture is like nitpicking at everything Gregg Berhalter does, every player, every action, instead of
Yeah.
just looking at the whole picture the last 4 years, where we've come a long way. Look at what, like, the team we have, look at the potential we have, and we're 3 games from, closing out, not just qualifying, but starting the next generation of US soccer. So I think the way, we've talked about, and the way you've explained it, as far as like, yeah, we just got to get the job done, because at the end of the day, no one's, yeah, you just got to get the job done, because no one's going to remember,
Nah.
the bounce passes
As
and
long as he's hitting his internal goals, like I don't know what his goals are, and what the federation has set out for him, and I'm sure they're probably really good goals. Like we need to make sure that our youth are playing, or like that internal stuff. As long as he's hitting those and he's qualified, don't matter how it could be the ugliest way, he can get in the 4th spot, beat an Oceania team, and make the World Cup. Success. I think it's success as long as you make the World Cup. And I also think, Kev, like in Europe, all these teams, they don't have it like us, where we're going to play in Canada where it's freezing, like in this kind of stadium, and then your next game is in the tropics of Honduras, where the field's shit, the balls bounce in different ways, like the conditions are so drastic. Whereas like, all right, when England plays Spain, they're going from London to Spain. They're still playing in a huge stadium. They're still playing on pristine, grass. They're still playing on, like the conditions are almost kind of level. Whereas like the conditions for us are like this. So that's also, another thing to take into consideration when, qualifying. It's tough, bro. Joa said it. Even him, he was like, yo, as a Mexican goalie, who's played at the highest level, he's like, yo, CONCACAF is hard, man.
Yeah.
You guys don't get it. It's really not that easy.
Yeah.
And I've played in those games, bro. I was in the U20 World Cup qualifying in Guatemala. It's not easy, bro.
Yeah. No,
I wanted to ask you one thing. If I think we can end on this. Tell me, do you ever think of this? So Pulisic and Gio Reyna and all these new cats, right?
Yeah.
They have all in their youth careers pretty much went through the academies. Would you agree? Like they played at, whatever the top academy in their area is from a young age.
Yeah.
Right. So think about it. Those kids have grown up on beautiful grass, right? Or like a beautiful turf, or like a nice, good conditions. I don't think there's any academy team in the US that has shit conditions, otherwise you're not an academy.
Yeah.
So they're taught on that. Then their coaches are teaching all these kids. I don't know a coach that doesn't teach a team not to play, right? It's like you got to build out of the back, you got to pass, I don't think there's coaches out there that are saying, all right, center back, you get it, launch it, win the second ball, or, like any kind of way possible to win a game, right? Because that's not an academy, right? You got to go through the phases. It's like passing the beautiful game. You think the South American kids are going through that? Like Argentina, Brazil, like you think they're going through the same thing? Or it's like they're being taught first how to play on the street and how to play in the worst conditions. And then as they get older, maybe 16, 17, 18, 19, they're hitting the beautiful conditions where the passing, the tactical, that
I know what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying? Like, is that playing to an effect with our national team? Because
I think so. 100%, bro. Just because on a more like on a psychological level, as far as like that's a different grind, that's a different like level of like just carrying yourself and building character. Where you have to wait.
But no. Seeing the game in a different way too, bro. Because look, I coached a bunch of D1. I mean, I didn't coach, but we had the USL2 franchise this summer, and we had a bunch of kids, you know, D1 top schools, ACC, Big East, and there was one game or a couple games where we're playing on a high school field, right? Or like, you know, it's not a field where you're trying to pass. You know, it's a pineapple. The ball, you pass the ball, it's just popping up. And these kids are like, they're trying to play out the back. They're trying to, you know, make it, put a square peg into a circle, you know? And it's like, dude, this game doesn't call for, you know, the tiptoeing stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, no, we got to try to play through it. We got to try to, no, bro, this game doesn't call for that, you know? And he's like, oh, well, that's not how I was taught and raised. I was taught, you know, I was taught when I was younger that we got to pass and we got to try to build out of tough situations, this, that. And I'm like, yo, these kids are not going to know how to play unless the conditions are perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
No. Yeah, no, 100%. I think so. I think you're right. Well, when
like we throw our kids into Honduras or to Guatemala or to Bolivia or to any of those conditions, they don't know how to play because they've never played in those conditions before.
Yeah.
But again, like, do they really need to?
I think it just builds a different level of like animal or like, you know, just kind of like,
you know, I guess, you know, when they're never really gonna, how many times a year are they ever gonna play in those conditions, right? Like if you're gonna be playing at Chelsea, you're gonna be playing at the best conditions your whole career.
Yeah.
So I guess I just think that our guys like don't know how to play in those conditions because they have the academies now and they've always played on great fields and you know, with the best coaches, the best gear, the best cleats, the best, you know. So that's another thing our fans don't know when we do lose or we do tie at Guatemala or at, you know, like Andy Nahar. Did you see what he did to us?
Yeah, last game.
Bro, bro. He killed us that game. He's for El Salvador or Honduras?
He's Honduras.
Honduras, yeah. Yeah, that Honduras game, bro, he destroyed us. And I see him week in and week out in MLS, and he's not really anything.
Yeah.
But he was born and raised on those fields, so he can play in those conditions, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why that level is kind of, people don't understand that as well, bro. It's like people play in Canada where it's 5 degrees, and then you're playing in Central America where it's, you know, it's tough, bro. CONCACAF's tough.
Yeah, we have to note these things, you know. It's not to make excuses. It's not to make excuses for the players.
It's not. But it's like, also not easy.
Yeah, people have to understand, you know, that these are actual things that affect not just the game, but players and, you know, referees and coaching staff, other stuff that, you know, small things that are behind the scenes in the games that we don't get to see as fans or at home.
I mean, have you watched any of the African Nations Cup?
I haven't got much of it, to be honest.
So, I mean, I'm sure you haven't seen any, because if Sadio Mane or Salah or, you know, any of the big time African players that are playing at the top clubs, if they've done any highlights, you probably would have seen it on social media. So the national team arena is it's a complex beast, bro. It's so hard to dissect. So that's why smart people, savvy fans, you know, who understand the game aren't getting worked up for dumb stuff. You know,
I hear you.
You don't get worked up for those kind of things.
I hear you. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. There's people who are watching this because they're fans of the sport.
Right.
There's people who actually understand and appreciate the growth and see the growth.
Yeah.
And the whole, as you know, the big picture. That's you
don't see the players
because when you see it like that, you know, it's
there's many things to consider, bro. So many things. And again, there's no excuse. Like, shouldn't ever be an excuse. But there's also another side to the story. Like, you got to play devil's advocate a little bit.
Yeah. To summarize it all up, I think we're sitting pretty. I think we're
chilling.
We're chilling. We have a good group. You know, we have depth in this group. You know, obviously there's going to be people who don't agree, who don't trust Berhalter. But at this point, he's done a decent job. He qualifies. He's done his job, so he's gonna be our guy for the World Cup. And yeah,
You don't get style points, bro. You get points. 3 points in the bag, qualified, bang. That's where you're judged on. You're not
that's
judged
it.
on if you connect 30 passes and scored a bicycle kick from the 18. Get to the World Cup, we're in.
Yes,
Done.
sir. Yeah, man. Like, yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to finish out the last, 3 games of this window, and I look forward to, actually seeing us in the
Window's
World
done,
Cup.
right?
Yeah, we're almost done. Last 3. We'll definitely speak after the next window, or hopefully once we get a draw, to the group stage and stuff like that. But it's always a pleasure.
Good conversation, bro. I mean, look,
Hopefully
we're
it
sitting
is.
pretty, but yeah, you never know.
Yeah, man. But definitely thank you for your time. Definitely for for your insight always, bro. I know you're a sharp soccer brain and you're a huge fan just like I am. So we're gonna continue to keep pushing and doing our part as fans, as supporters. That we want to win. So we're doing this stuff because we care about the national team, and we would definitely want some glory after.
This is what I say to everyone. It's easy to shit on the national team. Try being a little bit optimistic, because it's just easy to talk shit.
Yeah,
we can talk shit about anyone. Try, seeing the bright side of it. That's what I tell everyone.
Yeah, man.
All right, Kev.
Till next time, big dog. Peace.